Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Joyce, and I'm your instructor today. You are attending the prospecting webinar. Today's webinar is available for 1 CEU credit hour. And the way that you'll be checking in with me to let me know that you've attended the full program is to make sure to initially open chat. If you point to the bottom of your screen, you'll get a pop-up row, and you'll want to click there's a couple small arrows. If you click one of them, you should see chat. You'll want to make sure that you type in the public chat, not the private. So make sure it says to everyone, and type your first and last name and your license number. Also, I will be launching polls. When you initially opened the program, you should have seen a poll. It's asking you if this is your first webinar, and also asking, have you opened up chat and signed in? So please make sure that you answer the poll and also type your information in chat. In order to qualify for the credit hour, you do have to be here for the entire program. And so I'll be launching a poll and asking you also to check in the chat. Same thing, you'll type your ID and password, excuse me, ID and your name. So you'll do that initially, and in the middle of the program, I'll tell you when, and then at the end of the program. If you have any questions, chat will be the place to ask them. Your microphones are muted for the program. So if you have a question, please pop it into the chat and we'll get you an answer. All right, so you should be looking at my dashboard screen. Today, we'll be talking about prospecting. The program will be recorded. If you point to your name in the upper right corner and click, it brings up your utility menu, and you can choose help. Off to the left, you'll see many topics. One of them is the Yes MLS webinar videos. Today's program, as I mentioned, will be recorded, so you'll find it under prospecting. It will not be available for CEU credit if you watch the recording. Only the live program is available for credit. But certainly take advantage. You know, the holidays may be quiet this year and you'll have some extra time on your hands. So we have some really nice programs here. Feel free to watch those webinars when you can. I'm going to click the red cloud in the upper left corner. That's a nice quick shortcut to take me back to my home tab. At this time, it's 2:04. If you join the program after 2:06, credit is not available. So just a heads up to anyone who joins the program after 2:06, and it is mentioned in the poll question. All right, well, let's begin. So we'll talk a little bit about some search tips. So today we'll take a look at residential searches. So I'm just going to quickly jump in and we'll look at coming soon active and under contract allow showings. So you'll notice that those are my defaults. Every time I log into the system, that's what I will see. If I choose maybe to include properties that are under contract, no showings, and I want that to be my default every time I log in, I can choose that status also, and then choose the gear off to the right. When I click on the gear, I would choose that first sentence saying, I want to make this currently selected search criteria my starting default. And now every time I open a brand new screen, that will also be selected. So think about it in the future. If every time you log in, you say to yourself, well, I end up having to choose Cuyahoga County, and maybe you're always selecting single family because that's primarily what you're searching for. You can search for those. And like I said, include those, and those will then be part of your starting default. If you wanted to go back to the standard system default, we would click, oops, sorry about that. I'll take us back. We would choose the gear and then choose reset to system defaults. And now I'm back to what the system prefers, which is coming soon active, under contract, allow showings. And so I'm back to the system default. I do want to point out something. If you look in the bottom left corner, right now, I haven't selected an area or a price range or anything like that. And I'm at 9,395 matches. If you've been around for a while, you'll notice that the default, or excuse me, as you log in, we normally have well over 10,000 matches. So that is an indicator of how low inventory is at this time, quite low. So let's create a search. So I'm going to keep those three statuses. I'll choose single family. If I wanted to choose a style, again, I would search for the style I prefer. As I continue to scroll down, if I wanted to add another style, I would hold my control key down and click the other style so that they are both selected. So control click. If you're on a Mac, it would be command click, because if I just click without using that control or command key, I will deselect any, if I want to include them, I have to make sure I hold that control down to select more than one. All right, so in this case, we're going to leave style blank for this time being. I have a client who's interested in looking in a couple different areas. If I know the code, I can type them here. So for instance, I know they're interested in Strongsville, and they're also interested in Solon. If I don't want to have to scroll through that list, as you can tell, they're not alphabetical. These are in a geographic sort. I can click that double box off to the right, and it brings up a search. So I can type the name of that area and make the selection. So wherever you see that double box, you'll have the ability to get a pop-up window and then type and search. All right, so I've got my area selected. We have a price range. So if my client is interested in properties that are $325 to $350. Again, always think in ranges. If you select only a certain price, if you were to say $350, you'll only see listings that are exactly $350,000. So we certainly don't want that. I don't think I'll have many hits. If we're looking at bedrooms, if they tell me they need a minimum of 4 bedrooms, then I would probably say 4+. If that opens me up to maybe any properties that have more than 4. But if their minimum is 4, that's what I'll start with. Bathrooms, certainly want to be cautious with using full and half. So let's say that their client says 2.5 would be great. So 2 full, 1 half would be 3 total. I'm always going to say 3+. If I were to say just 2 and 1, if I put a requirement at half bath, I would miss then the property that has 3 full and no half baths, because I said it had to have at least 1. So again, I would be very cautious. If I say total baths 3+ and full baths 2+, any properties that have 2 full and 1 half, or 3 full and no half. So again, just be very cautious with that, saying it has to have a requirement of a half bath. When it comes to acres and square footage, let's remember that square footage and acres are not required fields in the MLS. So if I were to put a restriction in square footage, there may be a property out there that is a great match, but the list agent did not include the square footage in the listing. I'm not going to see that property. So if you are going to put any kind of filter in square footage, you want to make sure you use a range. And I would also indicate to include 0 square footage. So if it was left blank, I will be able to take a look at it. This way I don't miss anything that was left blank that could be a good match for my client. So as you can see, we put in a price range, bedrooms and bathrooms, and we have only 7 matches. So inventory very, very low. So that would make me be cautious about maybe, coming down to the features area and saying that I wanted a full basement or a certain kind of exterior. You may want to leave these a little more open than normal because, again, we have such a small amount of inventory. Do want to point out detail room info and room level. If the listing agent has included the rooms and the levels that they're on, you can search that. So if you are looking for, let's say you want a master bedroom and you want it on the first level, you can make that selection. As you can see, none of these properties have that. But you could make that selection. Please remember that room detail is not a required field in a listing. So as you scroll down to the bottom, I've added some fields. You may want to think about doing this. So if you'll recall, about this time last year, we added some fields. Beds on main was one of them. And so if you are looking for a bedroom on the main level, I would certainly want to add that field. So where you see additional fields, you'll choose add. All of the available fields are shown here on the left. So you can always make your selection and add it. And I should choose something that hasn't been used. I'll choose CDOM and go back. And now that field has been added to the bottom. So if you wanted to make sure that you had any bedroom on the main level, you can say 1+, and that would give you properties with bedrooms on the main level. All right. So at this time, I'm not going to make any more selections. I'm going to click results. And it takes me to the single line display of my results. If I changed my mind, if I wanted to go back to that criteria screen because I wanted to change the upper price level from $350 to $375, I do want to point out the speed bar up at the top of your screen. Now, normally I would click criteria and go back, but if you look up top here, this is telling us what we selected on that criteria screen. And once you learn the language, it really is pretty simple. So we can say, we can click this question mark off to the left, and it will bring up a tip sheet for you that you can print. But once you learn the language, this will tell you if you wanted to look for residential properties, Resi, Res, or R, any of those, as an example. These are the indicators for coming soon, active and under contract allow showings, single family. We have 2 areas selected, our price range, and these numbers indicate bedrooms and total bathrooms. So instead of having to click criteria and go back, I can simply jump up enter that new amount and click search. And now I went from 7 matches to 14. So that's a nice quick way, and especially if you're on a smartphone, much easier to do that instead of having to go back and, you know, stretch your screen and swiping. It's much, much easier. All right. So we've taken a look at our properties here, and we decide we want to set this up as an auto email for our client. As I look through the list, I'm looking at number 8, that Saratoga Trail. And I'm remembering I had a conversation with my customer who had already looked at that property online and said they didn't care for it. So if I wanted to remove it prior to setting up the auto email, I can. So at the bottom of your screen, you'll see actions highlighted in red. I'm going to come over to refine. Refine can be a little tricky sometimes. Let's talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to choose that Saratoga Trail, and then I've got 2 choices, narrow and discard. If I choose narrow, it's going to delete all of the other properties and narrow my list down to Saratoga Trail. Well, that's not what I want to do. Narrow is if I want to narrow it down just to that one listing. What I want to do is I want to discard it from my list. And so that's what I would do. I would choose discard, and now my client will not get that listing. If I want to send all of these properties to my client and set this auto email up, I'm going to go back to actions now. Excuse me, I'm going to come over to save. We'll choose save. And I've got 3 choices. We're going to choose the one in the middle, new auto email. You don't have to select all the listings because we're not really sending the listings. We're sending the results of the criteria that we selected. So think of it that way. I'll click new auto email. And now we need to fill out our settings screen. If you have the contact already selected, you can check them here. Or if you have a new client, you can choose to add them here. So you don't have to create a client first. All right, let's get to what we need to enter. So the fields in gold are what's required, but we have many fields here that we can fill in. All right, what if you didn't know their last name, or you weren't sure how to spell it and you didn't want to embarrass yourself by spelling it incorrectly? The system is just looking for you to enter something there. If you enter a period, that's enough. So that can be a little placeholder until you find Joyce's last name. So just a heads up with that. If I'm helping a cousin, helping her find a new home, we can set it up so that both of us receive that same email. So you don't set up multiple contacts if they are going to be working together. Again, this is the minimum. If you would like to, the default salutation is going to be just their names. If you want to change and make it something different, you can. You can create your own custom. This is a great place for all of your information. So if you have their current phone numbers, I would want to certainly include that here. All fields that are available, so their current home address. If you wanted to make a note, don't want to forget about the dog, we can enter that information. Please make sure that you've entered this correctly. Take your time and make sure, because this is going to send that very first email. It's really important that you have this correct. They need to click that very first email that they get to turn on the auto email. So take a second look and make sure only a comma is required in between. All right, so we're gonna take that one off because we're only going to send it to Joyce. Okay, and you may want to make this a meaningful subject line. Who knows? Maybe this client will later ask you, hey, listen, I'm looking to invest in some multifamilies in Lakewood, and that you want to create a secondary search. It's very helpful for you to quickly identify those auto emails by how you name them. So you may want to give it a good, meaningful name. Under the welcome email, so the very first email that you send to them is going to have this text in it. And then as the system looks for new properties in the future, this would be the text that you see in the recurring message. And you can modify this if you wanted to add something. You could So you could enter additional information there. As I come down to my signature, you'll see that I've got a pretty custom signature that I've created. If you click at the bottom, edit your signature, this is where you would be able to go in and similar to what you do in Word, so you could highlight the information, make it a different font or color. We have a tip sheet that would talk about that in our help section. So we also do a class called My Matrix and More that talks a lot about that. So take a look at some of that information, but that allows you to update your signature. You get a reminder of the criteria that you've used to create this. I have seen agents highlight that text, copy it, and make that part of the recurring email text so that it's very evident to the client what you've used, and they understand maybe when they see a listing somewhere, or why wasn't that part of the results that you sent to me? Well, if it was $380,000, this is going to tell them why. It's outside of the range. So sometimes that can be helpful. All right, we'll come down to settings. So concierge, if you have not used concierge before, it can be a great tool, but it is going to cause you some extra work. What concierge will do is when I choose it, you'll see all of the choices below go away. So I don't see the option to send it ASAP, or I don't see the option to send it in the morning or evening. What happens is the system will send all results to you, the agent. Now you have to review them before you either pass them along to your client or reject them. So if you have a very high maintenance client who says, I want to make sure that I have I want to only see properties that don't have any trees in the front yard. Well, how are you going to do that, right? So you would review and look at the photos first, and then decide whether or not to forward those on to your client. But it's also, with the way listings are getting offers so quickly, it's going to require that you act quickly too. So you may want to rethink that. We also have a box here, show this contact in reverse prospecting results. The default is to keep that checked. And this would mean that as we send this auto email to your client, if they favorite any listings, the listing agent would be able to see that you, the agent, have a contact that has favorited their listing. They don't see who the contact is. It just lets them know what agent has a contact who has favorited that listing in the MLS. So if you've ever been on the receiving end of an email where that agent has reached out to you in reverse prospecting, that's how it's done. Or you can enable this as a favorite on your home tab so that you would be able to quickly see that search, but that's just an option for you. The system default is selected, which is to look daily at 6 a.m. You can certainly also check the 6 p.m. box, so the system would check twice a day, or you can choose ASAP. And so that's saying that the system is going to be looking all the time. And as new listings meet that criteria, they are forwarded to your client. But that is certainly up to you. In this case, we're just going to check daily. We also do have monthly. So if you have someone who's not looking very aggressively, but is just interested in maybe what's going on in their neighborhood or a certain area that they're interested in moving to, you may want to choose monthly. And we will save. All right, so we get a confirmation message telling us that we have created that auto email. Let's see, I want to go back because I do see we had a couple questions pop up. Why can't you just type in the city box? You certainly can. Agents use what they're most comfortable with. I tend to use area. One of the nice things about area, I'm going to just choose Cuyahoga County for a moment. If you're looking for just a certain area in, like, we'll say Cleveland. If you are looking in Cleveland, you can select certain parts of Cleveland. So if you have a client who's interested in, we'll say Tremont or Ohio City, you could just choose 105. We've broken up Cleveland, but you could certainly choose city, and then it would look at the city in the listing and choose that. Is there a map of the areas? Yes. So for instance, I'm just going to jump onto the map very quickly. You don't have to type an address. You can even just type a city. I'm just going to type Cleveland, Ohio, and select it here. And if I go to the map, it's going to put me in Cleveland. Anytime you are looking at a map, you can open layers. And one of the options to show is MLS areas. And so if you've ever looked on and wondered, okay, what's 105 and where does that start and end? You can now see that on your map. Scroll there. And now I can see, okay, here's area 105 and this is area 1001. And as I drag the map, and maybe zoom in or zoom out, I can see those numbers. And I can see 104 is over here as I go west. So that can be very, very helpful. So you can at any time, or I can type an address here and it'll jump me to that address and then keep that display, right? So showing those layers and then show those MLS boundaries. Says, do you have to save that when you make changes? I'm sorry, I didn't get to your question right away. I'm not sure what your question was. When you said, do I have to save? If you were talking about maybe when I discarded the listing, I would just discard the listing when you adjust the criteria. We changed the criteria and then we saved the auto email. So what would we want to do if maybe let's see what we would have to do if we wanted to change the criteria after we set the auto email. So if I wanted to update that auto email, I would point to my matrix and then choose auto emails. And before we continue, I've got 2:30. I would like to do a quick check with everyone. So give me a second here. I've got a poll that I would like to launch. All right, so I've just launched a second poll. So if you would please it's just reminding you, let's get into the group chat again. I do need you to enter your first and last name and your login ID. So I'll give you a moment to jump into that, and then we'll get back into how to change the criteria of an auto email. Hot dog, you guys are fast. Okay. All right. It looks like you all are finishing up. Thank you so much for jumping in there and getting that taken care of. So I'm in my list of auto emails. So let's say that I had a much longer list, and I needed to quickly find the one I just created and I didn't remember what I called it. If you look over to the right, you know what? I'm going to back off. We're just going to keep. We'll use that with a different option. Sorry about that. So we did Strongsville and Solon. I'm going to click the name, and then choose criteria. Right? That's what we. That's how we filter the listings. So again, when you click on it, it opens up, gives you many choices. We're going to choose criteria. If I wanted to change the price to $385, I would update. So I've changed the price range now, $325 to $385. Click Save. It takes me to my auto email screen. I'm probably going to want to change that text that I put in the recurring email so that that is correct. Double check. It makes me double check. So if you did want to make a change and send ASAP instead, you could do that and then save again. So that's how you can update the criteria of an auto email that you've already set up. Quite simple. Okay, so when you send your auto email, I'm going to go back into the settings. I chose not to get a BCC. Many of you do, right? You click that checkbox so that every time an auto email goes to the client, it also sends a copy to you. One thing I want everyone to remember is when that copy goes to you and you click that link, it is going to take you to the MLS. It's going to take you into the MLS to show you those listings. Before the change that we had in the spring to the One Home portal, you would see what the client sees, and that is not what you see these days. So again, it's going to take you into the MLS and let you see those results in the MLS and not what the client sees. I'm very quickly going to show you what the client does see. And so let's take a look. So if I am a consumer, I am going to get an email that looks very much like this. It's going to show me listings, and I have the ability here to click and view properties. And it takes me to One Home. And it's going to welcome me, and it's going to encourage me to create an account. I would certainly encourage you to talk with your clients and recommend that they do. They are not required to, but they have a lot more flexibility in the system if they do. And it's not hard. They just need to provide a password. Their ID is their email address. And one of the benefits of them doing that is, you know, they have to click a link to come here. Moving forward, if they've set up an account, they can go to onehome.com, enter their email address, and then the password that they've set up, and they can go right in. So they don't even have to keep a link to their listings. And they can do that by clicking up in the upper right corner to create an account. But this is the view they get. And this is what they will see. So they'll get a map, listings on the left. It looks a little different on a smartphone, but essentially this is what they get. So I'm going to jump back into the MLS. So if you want to see the results, I'm going to go back to my matrix, auto emails, Strongsville and Solon listings. You can see the results. So when you're on the phone with your client who says, I got 14 listings from you, this is how you would be able to see them. When you send, when that email comes to you, if that copy, you don't want to ever forward that to a consumer. Agents have done that in the past and it worked. Again, that was before One Home. If you forward your copy of your email, it's going to ask your client to log into the MLS. And they can't do that. And it gets very confusing. So again, when that link goes to your client, it takes them to One Home. Your copy takes you to the MLS. The email, so I'm just popping over to questions now. I showed you what the email looks like. Can you show us again how to get a list of all of the emails we have set up? Right, my matrix, where all the good stuff is. You can see your contacts. So I can click here to see a list of my contacts. Or I can go and see a list of my auto emails. All right, so as I look at the auto email indicators on the left-hand side, red says it's not going anywhere. It can be disabled for various reasons. One would be because the agent stopped it. I would do that by choosing the auto email, going into settings. I would scroll down. Currently, this one is enabled. I would disable it. So if my client either asked me to stop it, or if they made an offer on a property, I would probably stop it so that they're not continually getting new emails and then saying, oh man, this is the house I really wanted. Why did I put an offer on that other one? So I would suggest disabling, not actually deleting. If you delete an auto email, we cannot turn it back on. So my advice is don't choose delete until you're absolutely sure that they're not going to continue looking. Because if you delete it and 3 days later, they say they've changed their mind, you do have to start over again. The solid circle, if I point to that, tells us that this is an active auto email. So the system is looking for new properties. When we point to this white circle, it tells us that the client has to click the link in the first email. So we sent this to Joyce, and she has not clicked on the listing yet. So, or excuse me, on the link yet. So until she does, the system is not going to look for any new results for her. So that's very important to know. They have to click on that first link. If your client says they can't find it, have them double check their email. Maybe it went to spam or junk. If it's a Gmail account, there's a really good chance that it went to their promotions folder. So have them take a look around. If they tell you that they've done all they can do and they still can't find it, you do have the ability to resend the welcome. But I would talk with them first and make sure that they've checked those other folders before you resend that welcome. I have a question from the client's email. Can they view additional pictures? Yes, they can view it the entire listing. They view the entire listing. They can click, get back to that. They can go to their One Home portal and they can click on the listing. It opens it up. They can view all the photos. So that's exactly what they see and the information for that listing. So yep, they'll be able to see all that. All right, so another option that you have is, let's see, if you're a client, we're going to go to look at a contact. If I point to my matrix, I can choose contacts. Over to the right, we can see things like my last use. This is about you, the last time that you made a change or emailed or printed something. Last one home visit talks about your client. Now, this is, I'm using things that I'm just, we test here in the MLS. But if you're looking at your contacts and you have lots of nevers, that's some homework for you. You want to contact those people and find out why they have not clicked on their link and gone to one home. If you mark any listings and put them in a cart for your client, you would see those links here. This tells you if you have any notes, so you can send notes back and forth to one another. If your client has favorited a listing, you would see that under the heart, or any discards, you would see that here. So for instance, I have a client, Francesca, who has favorited a few listings. If I click on, that's a link here, click on the number 2, I can see those that she has favorited. So once your clients get in there and start marking, you'll be able to see their activity. So very helpful. All right, so I'm going to go back to auto email. If I wanted to, again, stop that auto email, I can click under auto emails, click the subject. In settings, we'll scroll down. You can review it and choose disable. I usually like to go in and just take a look at it. If you prefer, from this screen, you can just click the checkbox on the left, and you can disable at the bottom. And again, that just stops the auto email. So now it will be read, disabled by the agent. I've stopped it. I'm going to jump back up to my matrix and go back to contacts. I do want to point out a few things. As I mentioned before, I can see if my client has favorited a property. And when it gives me the information in a display, it's just a standard single line display that you would see in the MLS. But don't forget, you have lots of options with your displays. I'll make this a little larger. If you click the drop-down box, you'll see you start with single line display, and there are many others. So that if your customer was interested in viewing any of these properties, we can choose single line appointments, and it's going to give us appointment related information. So I don't have to click on the listing, scroll to the bottom and look at that full listing. I can just jump to this display and say, oh, okay, well, they're using showing time. I should call or I should click the link. Other options that you have are things like agent summary. So again, if you find yourself going into the listing and maybe don't want to have to look through those big individual screens, this is going to let me very easily scroll through them quickly. So don't forget to double check these other options. Those are really good. And we'll go back to single line. I mentioned before that when I set up my auto email, I did not choose to receive a blind carbon copy. And that's because I can always go in and I can go to my matrix, sent email. When I choose sent email, I can see everything that I have sent to my client in the last 90 days. So as I scroll, I can see everything that goes from my email. I see these are auto emails. I'll continue to scroll down. There's a second page. I'll keep scrolling. The reason I wanted to keep scrolling is I wanted to show you the difference between a client that you've set up as a contact and one that you did not. You know, when you email, maybe you pull up a listing and you want to send it to someone, you can certainly go in and just type their email address, but I wouldn't recommend it. If you do, and you can see this one isn't blue, this one's black. When I look over to the right, it's blank here. I am never going to know if that consumer clicked on the link. If you set up a contact, it's going to show if they've clicked the link, and if they did, the date they did it. And that's really good, right? You want to know what your people are doing, and that's a great way to do it. So always, like I said, I always recommend setting up a contact. All right, I'm going to scroll back up to the top, and it shows us what we've done recently. So I can see what's being sent by me. I can see the actual listings that went. So I can click here if I want to see what I emailed to Fred. So it's an auto email that was set up for 6 in the morning. It went this morning at 6:09, and it sent 1 new, 2 updated listings. Fred looked at that information this morning at 9:37. I can see that, and I can click on that, and I can see those 3 listings. All right, again, that was my matrix sent email. So we can see what's going to our client. The downside is I had to actually go here to go look at it. What if instead of me having to go search to see, well, did anything go to my clients today? I can have the system tell me. And we can have that by updating our settings. Going to go back to our utility menu in the upper right corner. And let's choose settings. And in settings, we're going to now open portal notifications. And this tells me that I can make selections so that whenever one of my contacts does one of these functions, I can either get an email, a text, or a daily summary. My advice is try it. See if you like this. My advice is to click every checkbox that you see under daily summary. Every morning at 7 a.m., if you have activity with your clients, you will get an email. And it's going to tell you if they visited their portal, if they saved a favorite. And if they did mark a favorite, it gives you the MLS number and address. So it's going to say Joyce visited her portal. She saved this listing. And then it's going to go down to the next client and tell you what they did. So it's going to be for all of your people and tell you what they're doing. If you would like to get a text message, you do have to indicate a phone number and a cell provider. It's going to send you a test text just to make sure that it's going to the right place. And then once you accept that, you would be able to receive a text notification. Email and text, those come to you within just a couple minutes. So that can be really helpful. You know, that at the bottom where it says visits portal for the first time, when you set up that auto email, and you want to know, did they click on it yet? Well, instead of you having to go check and see, did they click yet? You sit back, or you go back, you get out there and do your job. This is going to tell you when it happens. Again, it may be a lot of emails, it may be a lot of notifications. So double check and see how many of these you want to select. But a daily summary in the morning is a nice feature too. So take a look at that for portal notifications. I'm going to jump now back to my matrix and contacts. So if you have disabled your auto email, maybe your client made an offer, and then once they have the titles transferred and they've taken possession of their new home, that's a good time to disable them. So if the transaction's complete, we can check them on the left-hand side, and we're going to look straight up, and there's an actions box, and we can set them as inactive. By doing that, your client goes to the inactive list. You have contacts, that are active and inactive. So now I can see all the folks that are not currently active. You know, this, I know a lot of agents that this time of year, they like to send out maybe a holiday greeting. So you might want to go to your inactives and just remind them that you're still around. And if maybe you haven't spoken with them in a while, it's just nice to kind of reach out. So you may want to send an email to them, but you may want to check out with your inactive clients. I'm going to jump back to the Home tab by clicking on the red cloud in the upper left-hand corner. For those of you that do have listings, if you go to the My Listings panel on your home screen, you will see a link to your properties. And the very last one, if you do have your own listings, will say My Hit Counters. Now, because I don't have any, I'm going to jump over to my tip sheet. And I'm going to take a look. This is what your screen will look like if you do have your own listings. As you pull those up in My Hit Counters, it's going to let you know activity in the MLS. So you can look at to see how many client portals your listing has gone to. So whether it's gone by an automatic email, or if agents have selected that listing and direct emailed it, it's going to show you how many. You can click on those links and see when those listings were, when your listing was sent, how many views it's had, how many favorites. You can also see how many current auto emails are set where your listing is a fit, and how many views it's had in the last couple weeks. And then for those agents that are using concierge mode, how many have published or how many have rejected that listing. And so you'll see that information here, and then we have a nice description. But what you're able to do is you can click the checkbox to the left of that listing, and you can go into concierge and you can reach out to the agents that have clients that have received your listing in their email, and you can reach out to them, maybe give them a heads up with any information, maybe letting them know that they've done some painting or, you know, updated something in the home, and ask maybe for some feedback. So don't forget about hit counters. Like I said, you'll see that on your home screen in Matrix. It lets you reach out to those clients. So don't forget, please, in my matrix, it's a good time to check your contacts. Maybe a little year in review here, look back. Like I said, if I set somebody up in May of this year, they never clicked on that link, I'm gonna probably reach out to these folks and see what's going on. And if they're no longer interested, I'll click that checkbox and move them to my inactive list, right? Always a good time to do that. All right. We're nearing the end of the program, so I do want to ask everyone to take a look. I'm going to jump in and we'll take a look at launching our last poll of the day. And we'll ask you to jump into the chat portion, and I'll need you to enter your first and last name again and your license number, please. And while you're doing that, I did want to also take a look. If you've ever gone in and created a search and then, didn't have the information yet for the client, maybe you didn't have their email address, but you thought, well, I know what they were looking for. I'm going to go in and create that search. If you have saved a search, you would find that under My Matrix, Saved Searches. Now, if I created one earlier today, but I don't remember what I named it, over here under My Last Run, as you can see, I can click that link. It's going to resort my information. So I had created this Lakewood 2-family properties. I just didn't have the information for the client. I can always go into my saved searches. I'll click the name. I can go into settings, and then up top here, I can turn this into an auto email. By clicking that link, I can choose my client. And then save it. So even if you don't have all the information, you can still get some of your work done, get that search created and saved, and then you can always go back in and turn it into that auto email and just complete it here. Well, I want to thank everyone for attending today. If you have any questions, feel free to jump into chat. I'll hang around for another couple minutes. If not, I guess it's going to be snowing tonight, so stay put if you can. Thank you. I got a question from John about stats. Yes, I do believe we have the recording in Help. So I'll come down to Webinars. And here we go. So check that out with Laura. She recorded that several times. Tried to put an address in a search. Why doesn't it work? So let me know what you did. So I'm going to go back to home. If you would, just let me know the address that you put in, and I'll show you how so you went to residential search. So were you just trying to find an address? If you had an address and you wanted to pull up the listing? Okay. I'm always going to use this search panel on the right. So if I was looking for a property on a specific street, I'm going to jump here. Street name. It's on Saratoga. I press enter. And it's going to sort these by status. I think sometimes you guys type more than you need to. Less is more. When you type the street name, all right, now, look, we have over 1,000 results, but the default is to show us coming soon, active, under contract listings up at the very top. So it's really simple for me to find by just doing that. The other thing is, if you want to search by an address, you can go into search and then choose residential. You can do that up at the top in the speed bar. So if I enter the house number and the street name, that's all I'm going to enter. You don't need to type any more than that. I can choose results. Oh, let me try that again. Actually, let's just do, so I don't have to type any more than that. I can type the house number and the street name. So very, very simple. So maybe I'll give that a try. I like to use the home page and use that search widget because this is going to search cross property. So it doesn't matter if it's a land listing or multifamily. It's going to search back all the way to 1991. So if you had a house number and a street name and hit search, you'll see if that you'll see all the listings for that property going back to 91. When a client disables an auto email, then they want me to set up a new one, and it says they have been disabled. How do I fix that? So if the client opts out, what do you need to do? So I'm going to go into help. If they have unsubscribed, so if I was your client and I did that, you would reach out to me and say, Joyce, you unsubscribed from your Yahoo email. I need you to open up that email, your Yahoo, and click on compose. In the routing of the message, I need to route the message to that address. And you may want to text it to me or take a screenshot of this because oftentimes they will type the email address incorrectly. They leave the E out of emailer. So it's optin.neorex@matrixemailer.com. I would even suggest that they also send a copy to you too, so that you can see that email address and make sure they send it to the right place. If they do it correctly, they will get a confirmation back to themselves. And then you just need to give our system about 30 minutes to catch up and update, and then you'll be able to set them up and start emailing them. If something doesn't look right or you're still having trouble, give us a call and we can help you with that. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I'm going to say goodbye and we'll close out. Thanks again. Appreciate you all coming today. Take care.